Hello, Levi. It's Wednesday. Today, it's finally time we put to rest the biggest mystery in video games. Of course, I'm talking about Funky Kong. But before I get too far ahead of myself, this video contains spoilers for Donkey Kong, Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country 2, Donkey Kong Country 3, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong 64, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Barrel Blast, and Donkey Konga. Please play these games before you watch this video. Alright, onto the theory. Funky Kong. For too long, this big, scary ape has eluded our grasp. What is he? What is he really? Behind those mischievous sunglasses and giant surfboard lies a mystery that we likely can't solve for sure until the rest of the games come out. I'm sure you've heard a lot of theories, but first I want to go over the evidence. Then, at the end of the video, I'll share my theory that I can guarantee you've never heard before. So what do we know about this big hairy guy? His first appearance was in the original Donkey Kong in arcades. Don't believe me? Well, look harder. Now you can see him, don't you? While it hasn't been directly confirmed by the game's creator, we can only assume that his job was making the barrels that Donkey Kong throws. More on that later. We can add makes barrels to our list of attributes. That's really all there is to say for now though, so let's move on to the Donkey Kong Country games. In this series, Funky Kong is mainly a manager of transportation. He gives the main monkeys the chance to fly using his funky barrel. More on that later. Here it is once again shown that Funky Kong makes barrels, but they're also used for flight. In fact, in Country 3, he makes his own vehicles, such as the Funky Hovercraft, Funky Train, and Funky Segway 9-Bot Go-Kart Pro high-speed racing and immersive gaming combo for ages 14+. Let's add Tied to Transportation to our list of established attributes. Donkey Kong 64 is arguably the biggest piece in the puzzle. Released in 2005, Donkey Kong 64 immediately made shockwaves in the video game space because it implemented third-person shooter mechanics into a series traditionally known for 2D platforming. This time around, Donkey Kong has amnesia, with the only thing he was able to remember being the memory of a friend who got shot in a space station. More on that later. The player got an unprecedented amount of control over the story of the game, with 11 endings available to reach, but one similarity throughout all the paths is that Funky Kong was always there to give you a gun. Dressed in what I can only imagine was cutting-edge technology in 2005, Funky Kong deals arms to the entire Kong family. He doesn't even perform background checks, which we all know Lanky Kong has no chance of passing. Additionally, gone now is his proclivity for transportation and joyous adventure. He only cares about damaging his enemies with military-grade weapons. We'll add this to his list of attributes as well. For the last video game appearance of our favorite bodacious ape, Funky invades the perfectly good Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze and gets his funk all over it. In this new Funky mode, more on that later, Funky Kong possesses all the abilities of the other characters, but does everything way better than them. The only thing he cannot do is lift the other characters up. So for that, we'll put down a final attribute. Looking at this list, it seems that none of this makes sense. He's a barrel maker, transportation specialist, weapons dealer, god. Many popular theorists attempt to make sense of these traits by saying, Funky Kong is just an incredibly talented ape with incredible shades to match. But that is too simple to be true. Let me tell you why. I said that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was Funky's last video game appearance, but he also appeared in a little-known TV show, Donkey Kong Country. In this show, Funky is constantly shown to be incompetent at using transportation. Wait a second, that doesn't make any sense, right? How can he be this masterfully skilled Kong when it comes to the games, but in the show, he's a comedic punchline because of his embarrassing incompetence? I asked that question too, until I scrolled down on the Mario Wiki. In this show, Funky Kong is described as exceptionally spiritual and known to talk about subjects such as karma quite often. Boom. I shouldn't even have to explain what that means, but just in case one person still hasn't caught on, let me lay it out for you. In 2005, Funky Kong armed a violent Kong militia and sent them loose on Crocodile Isle, likely killing hundreds of innocents. Funky knows that will come back to haunt him, as he believes in karma. For those who don't know, karma is the ancient foreign idea that what you do will have consequences in the future. If you do something, something will happen afterward. So Funky Kong being incredibly spiritual and believing in karma makes perfect sense. He's afraid of the consequences of his actions, so he trains and gets incredibly powerful, alienating himself from others so there's no way to hurt him physically or emotionally. All of this brings us back to the question I started this video with. Who is Funky Kong, really? After all we've looked at, I want to summarize my theory with a simple sentence. Funky Kong is a metatextual commentary metaphor for the player. Think about it. His rampage through the world without consequences, dealing weapons to the Kongs, only to realize his mistake and try to protect himself, is awfully similar to when you were young, and you flew up so high in that hot air balloon, and couldn't come back down. It all relates to that idea of karma, where if you do stuff, things happen. I think it's exactly what the creators intended, as it creates the most complete and well-written end to this story. Well, I should probably leave this video here, seeing as my script is nearly 50,000 words and this video is 0.118 hours long. So thankful I can finally close the script and... Oh my goodness, what is that? Has this freak been here the whole time? Sorry, give me a second. Must have been an invasive species of YouTuber homunculus. I'm sorry you had to put up with that. Anyway, thank you for watching to the end of this video. I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'd like to take a moment and shout out my patrons for keeping me afloat this month while I work on more theories for you guys. And, as is tradition, I'll be reading out their names in acrostic poem form. Mark C. Merry, awesome, resourceful, kind, and creative. Shadowblade 9. Simply heroic, amazing dancer, on Windows, big laser apparel depot every day. 9. H Block. Hey bud, look around once, 'cause you're not perfect, kid. Goopert. God only tolerates you because he has to. You won't last long. And that's it for this video. Thank you again, everybody. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and don't forget to have a beautiful, shining, sparkling, perfect, idealistic day.